You're very welcome along to the Matchbook Football Podcast. I'm your host, Daniel Hussey, and delighted to welcome each and every week Mark O'Haire and Adrian Clarke to tackle a lot of the talking points, which obviously start with that disaster last night. And I know we've got a couple of comments already coming in. Sticking the boot in, Adrian, but we will touch on it when we cover the North London derby. Yeah. Twitter was alive and well, I would say. Signs of its demise are greatly exaggerated, judging by some of the content on my feed there yesterday, to be fair. But before we get going, a quick reminder, all we ask, if you are enjoying the shows throughout the season, bit of crack, both on YouTube comments and on social media, if you hit that like button, subscribe completely for free to get more content, not just football, but up to the Cheltenham Festival as well. And if you haven't got a Matchbook account and you'd like to join us, enter the bonus code POD50, POD50, exclusive for our podcast listeners. It's the best one for football wise. If you want to have a new customer offer, and enter the bonus code POD50. Full T's and C's available on screen there shortly once the ticker goes, and on matchbook.com/promotions. Mark, we'll start with you. We'll get the neutrals' take on the title race. I mean, the updated odds as we head into Spurs versus Arsenal, so you can lead into your bet here for the game specifically. But Arsenal are 1.7 now to win the title. It did seem a big moment in some ways, but when you look at the title odds, it is a surprise maybe until you look at the fixtures that Arsenal are still heavy favourites.
Yeah, I was surprised this morning when I looked at the outright prices for Arsenal were still odds on, because it's in City's hands now. If they win every game between now and the end of the season, they will be Premier League champions, which is quite a statement, really. I said to you off air, Dan, but my focus was on the Champions League on Wednesday night. I didn't even realise Arsenal's match was being televised until half-time. I looked at the stats and saw Wolves didn't have a shot in the first half and thought, well, that's a formality. Arsenal go on and win that comfortably. No need to watch that. There's nothing of interest for me there. So, yeah, quite a shocking turn of events, really. And obviously I'm joined by two Gooners this afternoon in mourning after that. Shock events, really. Yeah, seismic. And now, obviously, they have to go away to Spurs, a traditional fixture where they produce the goods more often than not, particularly under Mikel Arteta. But there's a lot of unknowns going into this game. Just the mentality now, the Arsenal team. How weary will they be? That was their third game since Spurs last played. So there is a rest and preparation advantage to Tottenham going into this game. And obviously the perceived new manager bounce that most clubs seem to experience. And I think that's the issue for me going into this match, is I just don't know what to expect from Tottenham to a certain degree. And obviously normally a derby match tends to form goes out the window, as the cliche goes. But Spurs' form had been absolutely horrendous, hence why Thomas Frank was sacked. The appointment of Igor Tudor was a surprise. I did not expect his name to be linked to the job, let alone get it towards the end of the season. I can understand why. He's a bit of a firefighter. He's done a good sort of immediate impact, really, at all the clubs he's been at in Italy and France. The issue I have going into this game is the injuries. Tudor likes to play a three at the back, a 3-4-2-1. The issue is Spurs have got so many players out. So you're looking at Palhinha probably dropping back into centre-half to partner Van der Ven and Dragusin at centre-half, if that's the way he wants to go. Spence and Gray as wing-backs, and then, a combination of players in the midfield too and up front. But it's not great on paper, but the way Tudor likes to play is to be aggressive, be front foot, be physical, impose yourself and press high. And if you look at when Spurs have probably been at their best in Thomas Frank's era, it kind of came when the tactics went out the window and they were chasing games. You think of the Aston Villa match, Man City in the second half, Liverpool when they were up against it too. So if they can try and evoke that kind of performance out of them, they can be competitive in this game. They're no mugs. And I'm also surprised that they are as big as 6.4 in the exchange to win this game. It's the biggest home price they've been against Arsenal since my records began back in 2012. The biggest price Spurs have been in this fixture at home during that sample was 4.33. So that's a huge difference. Obviously, it's not a fixture they tend to fare well in. The long-term form table suggests that they won't win. They've only won 4 of 27 home league games, 6 clean sheets and 52 home league games as well. Just astonishingly bad numbers. And these sort of balance out. And Arsenal are so rarely beaten despite this recent wobble, 4 defeats and 32 away league games going back to the start of last season. So I don't expect Arsenal to lose, but there's just too many unknowns there for me to get involved in the actual match outcome. Instead, I wanted to focus on what I think will be quite a reliable aspect of this match, which is cards. There'll be lots of tension in the stadium from both home and away supporters. Spurs clearly not clear from relegation just yet. Arsenal chasing the title. You've got a home team who a head coach like Igor Tudor will demand more physicality, more aggression, eager to not just stop their rivals winning the title, but obviously gain a better foothold in that battle to avoid the drop. So I think cards will be guaranteed. 15 of the last 20 meetings in the Premier League have seen 4 or more. 12 of those have featured 5 cards or more. But if you look at the last 11 games between these two teams at Tottenham, 7 of the 11 have featured 5 cards or more. And I like that as a repeat, actually. I like over 4.5 cards as the first leg of a bet builder. Peter Banks is refereeing. He's given 4 or more in 10 of 18 Premier League games, 5 or more in 8 of those 18. Doesn't sound fantastic on paper, but you look at the matches where he has gone 5 or more. It includes Villa, Brighton last week. It includes Fulham, Chelsea, a derby, Sunderland, Newcastle, a derby. Both of those games he gave at least 6. He did similar in United, Chelsea and City, Spurs. So it shows that when the occasion and the high pressurized matches come to town, he tends to deliver the goods. So I like over 4.5 cards, and I'm going to partner it alongside under 4.5 goals for a 1.9 shot. I'd be surprised if this does escalate. I know it does tend to produce goals, but I just like the idea of just partnering. It's not a statistical sort of element here. I just don't assume this game will sort of leap out into a sort of goal frenzy of 5, 6 or 7. So obviously you've got a range of correct scores on side for both teams and the draw. But yeah, the main play here is to back cards. So over 4.5 cards and under 4.5 goals pays 1.9.
Okay, Adrian, it's going to be a fun game. Whatever happens, it's going to be
it's not.
story.
No, it's not going to be fun.
I know. I'm just thinking of the storylines. I mean, we're not even less than 12 hours since the result. But a little bit on the game itself. It's important not to overreact, obviously, given the title odds that I suggested, but also important not to underreact as well. It was, a terrible 45 minutes of football, I would say, that second.
Yeah, it wasn't good at all. It wasn't a great first half performance, really, even though Arsenal were sort of in control of the game. So, yeah, look, going forward at the moment, there are issues. The balance of Arsenal's attack not quite right, I would suggest. Maybe the team selection didn't work against a relatively low block, going with the sort of pace attack of Martinelli, Gyökeres and Madueke. Didn't really bear fruit, but that said, when the subs didn't impact it positively either. It's a mentality thing. Mentally, Arsenal are struggling, aren't they? They're feeling the heat and they're starting to panic. I mean, as bad as Arsenal were in that game, it's still a calamitous error, isn't it? That costs Arsenal the win. They should, it's a nothing cross that's floated into the box. It's David Raya all day long. Keeper comes out and catches it. Job done. But Gabriel, for me, I don't know why he's backing off and trying to compete for the ball. So. But those kind of things happen when players tighten up, when they start to feel the pressure. But probably more worrying than that individual mistake was Arsenal's giving up the lead, a 2-goal lead. I mean, goodness me, 2-goal lead against the bottom side. But it's not the first time it happened at Sunderland. It happened against Manchester United. It happened at Brentford. Arsenal get into good positions at the moment. They don't put the foot down. They sort of ease off. And I think that comes from a slight lack of trust in themselves, maybe. They just want to go into protection mode. And that's not the way that you're going to win the title. So I really, really hope that Arsenal can flip that on its head and be more positive in this game. And I do think, actually, when I look at the game and I look at Igor Tudor coming in, first and foremost, I think it's bad news for Arsenal that they've made the change. I think Arsenal would have beaten Thomas Frank's Spurs hands down. This adds a bit of doubt because he'll re-energise the team. He'll re-energise the stadium. He's got a fantastic record as a firefighter, as someone that gets short-term impact results. So that is a concern from an Arsenal angle. But what I will say, that boldness, that aggression, the man-to-man press, the sort of asking his centre-halves to join in forward areas and, a lot of positional rotation, all of that could play into Arsenal's hands, especially if they haven't nailed it in training. So I do think that if Tudor takes it to Arsenal, which I'm guessing he will, then that will give them a chance of scoring goals and putting pressure on Arsenal, but it also would leave them exposed. And Arsenal are at their best when teams leave a little bit of space in behind. So I'm optimistic that Arsenal will bounce back, but I can't back them. Not based on what I saw from them at Wolves. I need a bit more evidence before I can sort of hang my hat on Arsenal to win this game. But I do like both teams to score. It's a 1.9 shot. It's landed in 4 of the last 5 North London derbies. It's landed in 8 of the 12 North London derbies that Mikel Arteta has been involved in. And as I said earlier, that just defensively, there's a few creaks there at the moment. It's not entirely convincing. Arsenal conceded in 6 of their last 9 away games. And look, for as bad as Spurs, I mean, and then you look at Spurs defensively, they've conceded at least twice in each of their last 6. So Arsenal really should score here. But, will they keep a clean sheet? I don't know. Despite their sort of woes at home, they did score against City. They did score against Liverpool. They did score against Man United. They did score against Villa. They did score against Newcastle. So I think they've got every chance of notching here with Solanke and Simons in half decent form as well. So yeah, both teams to score for me 1.9. If you want to pair it with Arsenal double chance, I wouldn't put anyone off of that. I wouldn't see us losing the game, but yeah, I'm not going to put it up.
No, I reluctantly agree with the guys that, yeah, it's a tough game to call, given the uncertainty on both teams for completely different reasons. But Adrian's locking in both teams to score 1.9, quite a big price that you would usually get for that sort of bet as well. So we'll lock that in. And we're actually going to combine the 3 guys for our £10 money back special. Get your money back as a free bet. If this bet loses up to £10, all you've got to do is put the following bet into the Matchbook Bet Builder. Bet Builders become quite popular on our site over the last couple of years. Both teams to score under 4.5 goals and over 4.5 cards. Gives you 3.3 shot. I'm reliably informed by producer Rob, who was full of glee as a Liverpool fan on the WhatsApp last night. So we'll be dealing with that internally as we move on to Aston Villa versus Leeds United. And super Leeds, Mark. I mean, 2-0 down away to Chelsea. They somehow get themselves back into the game. We've spoken about them a lot in terms of maybe a lot of draws. Their form, really, they should be fully clear in mid-table. They've just had so many draws and so many good performances. Is there another one coming at Villa Park this Saturday?
Yeah, I wouldn't discount them. I looked at this game. I think it's quite an interesting match because probably when I did my notes on Wednesday morning, I had Aston Villa out of the title race based on what we saw Wednesday night. Perhaps they're back in it. They're still not going to win the title, but they'll feel like there's an opportunity for them to close that gap as well. But I think their main aim from here should be to secure that top 5 finish. Injuries, though, haven't helped, and I think that's one reason why Leeds can be competitive in this game. One of a number of reasons, but I just look at the Aston Villa midfield. It's such an area of strength for them, and to miss Kamara, Tielemans, and McGinn, they're 3 massive players to be without. And yes, there's players that can come in and do a job, but when I see Villa quoted at odds on to win this game, it's too short for me to get with the home side. The Brighton win came with just 1 shot on target, and there's been a few sticky performances in there recently. So I get if you just look at the results across the campaign, you might think this should be a straightforward home Villa win, with Leeds lacking results and points on the road, just 8 points in 13 away days. Their solitary win away from home came at Wolves as well, but they have been much more competitive than those results suggest. As you say, they should have lost to Chelsea, in fairness, that 2-2 draw, but they went to Stamford Bridge, got a point. They've been to the Stadium of Light, they've been to Brentford, they've been to Liverpool, all in the last sort of 5 or 6 away games and gotten something. They went to Newcastle, should have won the game, ended up losing it in stoppage time. So their away performances have been actually quite impressive for quite some time. And if you look at the state of play since the start of December, Leeds have lost just twice in 13. 7 of those games ended in draws, as you say, but only Man City and Man United have lost fewer league games than Leeds in that sample, which is quite impressive. And the draw for me would be a big runner at 3.8. 5 of Leeds' last 6 away have been drawn. That would be a nice price repeat, but the bet that stood out to me more was to back both teams to score at 182. It is now a Matchbook exchange. That for me is a nice price based on how I see this game playing out. We've seen Leeds go away and give it a good go. I know they had to come back from 2 down at Chelsea, but they were the better side and more proactive at Everton in a draw. They were very proactive at Newcastle. We've seen it numerous times now. They go and have a go, and it's been that way for a while. They've scored in 18 of the last 22 Premier League games. Going back to mid-September, they've scored in 7 of 8 away. Their issue has and always has been defence, where just 2 clean sheets since August. That's led to a glut of high-scoring games, a glut of BTTS winners. 17 of the last 22 in the Premier League have seen both teams score. 7 of the last 8 away have seen both teams score. So really strong numbers for a play here around 1.82. So I wondered whether the raw results were backed up by the underlying metrics, and they have been, because Leeds' last 12 league games are averaging 3 expected goals, and they're heading to a Villa side who, over the same period, are averaging 2.93 expected goals. They've scored in 18 of 22 since they made that dreadful start in it. I know Everton and Brentford have been here and nullified them, but Leeds don't possess the same sort of diligent defensive framework to do the same, and Villa really should have scored against Brentford as well. So it should have been 19 from 22. So I fully expect Villa to make their mark in this game. But yeah, I wouldn't discount Leeds at all. So both teams to score here at 182 stood out to me. It's a big price for a Premier League game between two teams who like to get forward and attack.
Okay, we'll lock that in. Adrian, for you, you're a little bit more pro Villa. I mean, not having Europa League football this week and getting that top 8, I think that's massive for them, and the rest advantage could for them, like, versus what they've been dealing with week in, week out, constantly having to play Thursday, Sunday, even with the midweek Premier League cards as well, if you get me.
Yeah, that's in my thinking, to tip them up here. I like Villa and over 1.5 goals. I wouldn't argue with anything Mark said. I think Leeds could absolutely get involved and get on the score sheet here, but I think that Aston Villa might have too much. I just think the goals have dried up, haven't they? Obviously, Watkins and Rodgers, and they've had a few injuries, so like they've been short of goals lately, but that won't last forever. And I do feel that you can get at Leeds. I'm not a massive fan of either of their keepers, really. And look, maybe it's recency bias, but I watched Arsenal put 4 past them, saw the Newcastle game, which was wild. They did let in 4 goals. Other teams earlier on in the season have put them to the sword away from home, even though they are better away from home. They haven't lost much lately, Leeds United. So to go against them, is maybe not ideal. Some might look at it, but I just think Villa will get back on the horse. They'll be encouraged, I think, by Arsenal dropping points. They'll see this as a big game. They'll be nicely rested, and I think they'll really get after Leeds. And they'll be fuming at going out of the FA Cup, the nature of it as well. I just think that Unai Emery will get them revved up. They're unbeaten, by the way, in all 18 of their Premier League games against promoted sides under Unai Emery. 14 wins, 4 draws, no defeats. They also actually have a perfect 8 from 8 win record against sides 14th and below this season. So Villa have been the ultimate flat track bullies a little bit. So I think they can extend that. The over 1.5, well, Mark's outlined the reasons. 21 of 26 Leeds games this season have gone over 1.5. 11 of their 13 away games have gone over that as well. Villa not quite as impressive with those numbers. As I said, of late, they've I think 17 of 26 have gone over 1.5, which is actually on the low side. But I think it will on this occasion. I think it'll be a good game, and I think Villa will prevail in that good game. And it's a nice price. That's another reason why I've looked at it. A title chasing side, no matter how remote, but they are title chasing against a side that could still go down, and you can get this at 2.34.
Okay, so either way, whichever angle you want to cover there from Mark and Adrian as we move, and stick with you, Adrian, for Manchester City versus Newcastle, because Newcastle were in action on Wednesday night in the Champions League. This was 12:30 kickoff. It's now been moved to the 8 o'clock slot on TNT Sports. We need a favour from Newcastle, mate.
Yeah, and I'm not overly confident. Look, Manchester City have an unbelievable record against Newcastle at home. They've won their last 6 home games against Newcastle, all to 0. So that's in the Premier League. Newcastle have a shocking record away to sides in the top 2, winless in 37, that goes all the way back to 2001, by the way. So yeah, and City are getting better. Obviously, they've tightened up a bit at the back. I don't think since matchday 15, they've got the best defensive record in the Premier League, better than Arsenal. So yeah, I think that they're doing okay. They look nice and calm. They've had the reinforcements of Gurhi and Semenyo, and Marmoush has come to the party. It's not just the Erling Haaland show, is it? And that helps them. But look, and the schedule's not kind, is it? I mean, Qarabag on a Wednesday, and then you've got to go to the Etihad on a Saturday. I think that game really should have been moved to Sunday. In an ideal world, I know they've pushed it back to 8, but that is tough for Newcastle. But at least Newcastle will be happy with themselves. What a win that was, by the way. Absolutely phenomenal. So they'll And you know what? I think for this game, for Newcastle, I'm not saying the league's a write-off because there's always a bit of pressure there, but they're going to progress in the Champions League. They're still in the FA Cup. I think that they will be the main focus, really. I think getting into the Europa League will be the target, I guess. But it's almost a free hit because no one really expects them to go to the Etihad and win. So they might go and play there for a bit more freedom. Obviously, no Bruno, so they might have to tweak the system and play an extra attacker anyway. So, yeah, I think that they can make this relatively fun and go for it. But history tells you that they'll get beat by Manchester City. Right, I've got a little bet builder here for you. I'm even playing it safe here. I'm going with Man City double chance because City haven't been super reliable. They have been dropping the odd silly point. I remember the Brighton game and the Chelsea game, and this title race is doing weird things to everybody this season. So I'm covering my back here. I'm going City double chance for obvious reasons and under 5.5 goals. So the scorelines that gets on board are numerous: 0-0, 1-0, 2-2, 1-0, 2-0, 3-0, 4-0, 5-0, 2-1, 3-1, 4-1, 3-2. There's a lot of scorelines there that could come in. And then I want to pair it with corners. It's Newcastle. Newcastle games are just flooded with corners. We know that they're averaging over 11, and City games are averaging 10. At the Etihad, so over 8.5 corners for an attack-minded game sits all right for me. I would expect goals, but maybe not 6 goals. So that's where I'm going with this. Just want a little bit of a safety net in case Newcastle nick a draw. But yeah, I can see the corners absolutely landing. I don't think City lose this game. And seeing 6 goals would be highly unlikely. So that's my bet builder. It's not a huge price, 1.75, but I think we've got a chance.
Okay. And Mark, for you, I think Adrian touched on the rest advantage for City. It's hard, like, even if you add in Newcastle's inconsistencies throughout the season, despite the fact it was a comfortable win, obviously, despite the Gordon Trippier near fight at halftime, that you're just probably not expecting them to reach those levels against City, or maybe the tiredness to have an effect late in the game, perhaps.
Yeah, it's a schedule thing. To go to Baku on Wednesday and be back to play at the Etihad on Saturday night, regardless of how straightforward that game was in Azerbaijan, they were fantastic, especially in that first 45 minutes. But Karabag it's probably as bad a performance I've ever seen in the Champions League in terms of 45 minutes, the goals they gave away and the opportunities. Incredible stuff, really. But that's a huge bearing for me on how this match might play out. The lack of rest, lack of recovery and preparation time for Newcastle. A lot of that time they're going to spend travelling, basically. And no Bruno Guimaraes either. We know the stat about Newcastle in the Premier League when he doesn't start. I know it's only just a 10-game sample, but winless. Scoring decreases, conceding increases, and now you're playing away to arguably one of the toughest venues in the Premier League. A team who have just basically schooled you over 2 legs in the League Cup semi-finals, and as Adrian says, have got a rock-solid record in this fixture going back a long time, really. And I do think City are slightly short here. The last 3 occasions they've hosted Newcastle in the Premier League, they've gone off 2-0-9, 187, 151. In that League Cup tie when they didn't need to win at the start of the month, they were 191. So to see them sub 1.5 here, that's a big difference. But ordinarily I'd probably look to try and oppose that in some way or form. But just because of the circumstances here, they do not suit Newcastle. And therefore I'm quite happy to try and find a way to get with Man City. And it's quite straightforward in the end. I thought back Man City to win and under 4.5 goals. It comes in at 215 on the bet builder, which is a chunky price, a big increase on that 144 on City just to win. Obviously got a load of the most likely correct scores on your side, and 8 of the last 10 times City have hosted Newcastle, that selection has paid out. It's also won in 16 of Man City's last 20 home games across all competitions. And yeah, you look at Newcastle, 3 away wins on the spin, which goes against their campaign so far. But if you look at them individually, Spurs, well, they were in crisis at the time. Newcastle played well, but even still, Villa was aided by that incredible red card last weekend in the FA Cup. And then it's Karabag, who, questionable quality. So it's 6 wins in 20 across all competitions away from home this season, 1 clean sheet and 16 away since October's international break, and that came at Wolves. So, yeah, I just think everything sort of points towards a Man City win, but unlikely to sort of get out of hand here. So I think odds against on City to win with under 4.5 goals is well worth taking.
Okay, lock that in. City under 4.5 goals and move on to their final. Sorry, Adrian, hit us with it. You have a stat here on this game.
Yeah, I got a little stat. I forgot to read it out while I was going with it on the City angle. Right, since 2010-11, so we're going back a fair bit. English managers have taken charge of 76 away games at Manchester City and won once. Roy Hodgson. Roy Hodgson with Crystal Palace in 2018, 67 defeats, 8 draws, and 1 win for English gaffers. So look, it's an obscure stat, but it's a pretty strong one.
No, Adrian usually hits us with a monthly obscure stat. That is February's one, which is great. We will move on, and Adrian, stick with you for Nottingham Forest versus Liverpool. Interesting time for Liverpool. Their next 3 games against teams, I think, in the bottom 5 or 6, and it starts with Forest away. So if they are going to do anything in the Premier League this season, they should be targeting 7-9 points from this 3-game stretch.
Definitely, yeah, and they kind of need to, don't they? If they want to stand any chance of sort of jumping above those teams ahead of them in the race for the Champions League. So yeah, it's a big game for them, definitely, but it's also a huge game for Nottingham Forest, the first, of course, under Vitor Pereira. I still think it's a bit of a strange one, strange appointment to sort of. I get the fact that I don't think the players were fully on board with Sean Dyche, so that's the reason he's gone, as well as the fans. The connection wasn't there in terms of the football. But Vitor Pereira, I just don't know whether he's an upgrade or not. We'll have to. We'll give him a chance. I'm just not completely sold on it. And I find this game quite hard to call. I would expect Liverpool to maybe win it, but Forest are capable, aren't they, of giving the big boys a real tough time at home. I remember the Arsenal game 0-0. City, they pushed them close, only lost right at the end of that game, didn't they? 2-1. So they can be competitive in these kind of games, no doubt about it. And they've got a good recent record against Liverpool, haven't they, Forest, which they can sort of will give them a bit of heart and confidence going into this one. They won 3-0 at Anfield, of course. They're actually 3 unbeaten against Liverpool. And the games that they've played at the City ground since they've come up to the Premier League, there's been 3 times Liverpool have visited. And there've been 4 goals across those 3 meetings. So they have been able to keep things very, very tight and cagey. And having been at the City ground last week for a goalless draw, I'm not saying it'll be a goalless draw, but I can see it being quite tight. 0-0 against Wolves, 0-0 against Arsenal, 1-1 against Palace recently. 6 of Forest's last 10 have actually gone under 2.5 goals. And they've only scored 13 in 13 home matches this season, Forest as well. So they've been very light up top, but they can, they work hard, they'll be organised, and they won't be easy to breach. And Liverpool haven't exactly been flying, have they, on the road? Only won 5 of 13 away games this season, and they've scored in 2026. They've scored 1 or less in 5 of their 8 games, Liverpool. So they're not exactly full of goals at the moment either. Forest, by the way, have scored 1 or less in 8 of their last 11. So it's all pointing towards unders for me, and it's a nice price. Given the history of this fixture, how low-scoring games tend to occur, and the stats I've just read out, to get 2.26 on under 2.5 goals, it really caught my eye.
Okay, lock that in. And Mark, for you, the Vitor Pereira thing, as Adrian touched, I mean, I don't think he'd have made my long list of candidates who I thought would have got that job on a short-term basis like this to try and make sure Forest stay up, rather than maybe I could see him coming in the summer or something. I don't know what you thought.
To me, it made a bit more sense when I saw Igor Tudor linked with Tottenham, to be fair. What with the connection with Marinakis and the job he did at Wolves after the impact he made to keep them away from relegation. But there's no joined up thinking at Nottingham Forest. We know that with the appointments that they've made this season. So, Charlie the Clown probably wouldn't have been a huge surprise to me if he went in at Nottingham Forest this season. But not going to lie, I found this quite difficult to analyse as well with the new managerial appointment and Forest playing a tricky game on Thursday night as well, which will be the first taste we'll get of Pereira. I thought Dyche's move to sack him was premature, even if there were grumblings about the players being unhappy with the physicality of training and being quite old school. The results were reasonable enough, and probably going to keep them up regardless. So sacking him after that Wolves match felt really unnecessary with a game they absolutely dominated and probably win 99 times out of 100. But yeah, they get Murillo back here, and that'll be interesting because Vitor Pereira is a 3 at the back man, and Forest, as we know, their best strength has been that back 4 really in the past 18 months or so. So the makeup of the side will be interesting to see. Maybe we'll get some clues on Thursday night, but I am expecting them to play with a bit more hunger and physicality and desire and all those kind of unmeasurables really, because his press conference, I'm not sure how many times he referenced fire and passion in his unveiling, and we know that's the chairman's character too. So I'd be surprised if they don't come out for a battle here. And yeah, we saw that when he took charge of Wolves actually last year. Wolves saw 4 cards more in 7 of their first 9 home games under Pereira. They drew at least 2 cards in all 9 of those matches as well. And I was quite keen to explore the cards angle here. The negative or positive is it's Anthony Taylor at the helm. A guy we know, depends on his mood, whether he wants to give cards or not. He's given 4 or more in 12 of 21 this season, but has also gone 5 or more in 9 of 21. So once he pops, he can't stop, but it's just trying to get that first card out of him. And hopefully he'll be at it here. Over 3.5 cards was my bedrock here. Happy to leave the result, handicap and total goals alone. Focus on cards. Liverpool have seen this 3 or 4 card line land in 9 of 13 away. So there's plenty of numbers in our favour, I think. And yeah, you just expect Forest to try and impress their new coach and try and go in for a bit of a battle here. So to get this over the line, I've just included under 5.5 goals because over 3.5 cards was just a bit too short. So chuck in under 5.5 goals and we get a backable price. I think it's 5 to 6, 1.83. And that's the way I'm going to play it. But yeah, eager to see how Forest set up on Thursday night with a view to potentially having a firmer view for the weekend and weeks forward. But yeah, Liverpool, I was actually really impressed with their performance at Sunderland. And I think there are signs that perhaps they're starting to find their feet again. But it's that issue at right back again. Frimpong is out again. Endo's out. Bradley's out. So it's probably Curtis Jones or Dominic Szoboszlai, yeah, or even Joe Gomez, but he's just not fit enough to play 90. So yeah, happy to sort of leave that alone and focus on cards.
Yeah, Jones did all right against Brighton, to be fair, but yeah, they need to find a medium-term solution until the guys are back. Insights.matchbook.com, full recap of the picks. Adrian, very much looking forward to both your selections here because I only managed to get the second half of Coventry versus Middlesbrough. Thought when Middlesbrough got that goal, I was like, right, here we go, 15 minutes, just handball. You can't legislate for that sort of thing, really. And then Coventry got the win. I thought it was a big result for the championship title race because Middlesbrough seemed to still be the team in form right now.
Yeah, it was great. I was there. It was a fantastic atmosphere and a superb advert for the championship. Really cracking game. 2 excellent teams. You know, Middlesbrough didn't bring their A game, but they're still a class act and they play some great football once they get flowing. They're excellent. But Coventry, showed their teeth, didn't they? They showed they've got the courage, the heart, and they they can play 2 ways. Cov. So yeah, I was impressed with both teams, and I think that they are in pole position to be the 2 that gets the automatic places. Ipswich have obviously been a bit inconsistent. It still wouldn't surprise me if Ipswich stole in. I'd be stunned if it's Millwall, even though their results have been great. So yeah, look, two good teams, and I want to back them this weekend. They've got 2 easier games on paper, and I'm trying to find a way to get them on board. I'll start with Middlesbrough. They're playing at Oxford at home, and that's a good fixture, I think, after the defeat. Good game to bounce back from. They're only 1.41 to win the game, so I've had to get a little bit creative with the bet builder. It is second versus 23rd. Borough have won the last 3 at the Riverside to 0. In great nick. All 10 actually of their home wins have been under 4.5 goals. So that's part of my bet builder. I want to go Middlesbrough to win under 4.5 goals. And then they're up against an Oxford side that, really are struggling under Bloomfield. Matt Bloomfield, no major impact. They've lost 3 of their last 4. They've scored 1 goal in their last 4 games. And wait for this, 31 of Oxford's 32 matches this season in the Championship have gone under 4.5 goals. So I'm very happy to lock in that particular figure. So Middlesbrough and unders, what can we do to get it up to even money? Let's go over 7.5 corners. So 8 corners or more. Borough games average 10.41. They're at home. Oxford will sit deep. I expect them to pile on the pressure to win lots and lots of corners. Oxford matches average 11 corners. And they concede away from home on average 8.63 corners a game on their own. So they'll cover the line if that is replicated here. And remember, they're playing against probably the most attacking side in the Championship. So Borough to win, under 4.5 goals, over 7.5 corners, 1.98.
Okay, and second selection sees West Brom host Coventry. You'll obviously talk a lot about Coventry, but geez, West Brom on the back of 2-0 all draws in a row. If they're not careful, I mean, they're lucky Leicester have had that points deduction. They could be spending next season in League One, which is unthinkable in my eyes, but I guess it's the reality they're facing.
I think it is a reality. Even though Leicester, have had a bit of a disaster, but I think they're better than West Brom, and West Brom are really struggling, and I think they'll be looking at your Blackburns and Charltons, looking to reel them in maybe. But they're in trouble, no doubt about it. West Brom, they've scored 7 goals in the last 10 Championship matches. I mean, this is West Brom. They used to be a yo-yo club. They used to be a team that were guaranteed almost to go straight back up, but no, not anymore. They've blanked in 4 of their last 5 games. They've won 1 in 10, losing 6. No wins at all in 2026. It's been an awful spell, really, for Eric Ramsey, who took over. And it's just, they've barely scored a goal since he came in. I'm just going to back Coventry on the nose here. Keep it nice and simple. It's at the Hawthorns, so that's why we get a slightly better price, which is 2.14. But yeah, I just think Coventry, after beating Borough, they've got their mojo back. Surely they'll just go again. Hadji Wright got a hat-trick. He was absolutely flying in the game. It's competition for places all over the pitch all of a sudden. Radonu came in. Essa was back on the bench. He's a really good player. So there's guys now pushing one another for starts. They've got Bobby Thomas back in defence. That's massive for them. He's a real sort of inspiration at the heart of their defence, Bobby Thomas. So yeah, I think they'll go there with a lot of confidence and turn West Brom over, and it's 2.14.
Yeah, seems a massive price, really. I guess Coventry's recent run-up before Middlesbrough is probably why you're getting 2.14. Mark, you've 2 selections here, Serie A and Bundesliga, so hit us off with both, please.
Yeah, we'll go start in Italy because it's Friday night football between Sassuolo and Hellas Verona. And Sassuolo have made a great impression on returning to the top flight. They are pretty much safe for the season. In mid-table, 11 points clear of the bottom 3. They've won 3 of the last 4. Including impressively away at Udinese last weekend. The only sort of blotch on that 4-game sample came at home to Inter, who are running away with the league right now, so that's understandable. On Friday they welcome Hellas Verona, and really surprised we can get Sassuolo at 186 to win this game. So if you exclude their results against the top 5, who are head and shoulders the best teams in the league, Inter, Milan, Napoli, Juventus and Roma, Sassuolo have won 9, drawn 4 and lost 4 across all venues, which is incredibly impressive. They are 17 points better off than Verona coming into this game. And Verona are in dire straits, really. 14 defeats and 25, rock bottom. 7 defeats in 10 winless games. They failed to score in 6 of those. 7 defeats and 13 away. 8 goals scored on their travels. 1.84 per game conceded away. And I mentioned Sassuolo's record against teams outside the top 5. If you look at Verona's record against teams outside of the bottom 5, they've won just once and lost 14 in 19. Appreciate that might be harsh, leaving in the top 5 teams. So let's remove them. Let's take out their results against Inter, Milan, Napoli, Juventus and Roma. And it's still rubbish. 1 win, 2 draws, 11 defeats. And they head here with a glut of suspensions and injuries. Their striker, Gift Orban, was sent off last week. And looking at the team news in Serie A, it looks like Verona will be the most hardest hit this weekend in terms of players missing. So, you look at their last 5 games, it kind of summarises where they're at right now. 0-0 at Cremonense, who are sinking fast. 3-1 at home defeat to mid-table Udinese. A 4-0 loss at Cagliari, who are mid-table at best. 0-0 at home to Pisa, who are also marooned in the bottom 3 with them. And a 2-1 loss at Parma, who will be mid-table at best. So in those 5 games, they've averaged 0.54 expected goals. I had the misfortune of watching 2 of those games, the 0-0 draws, and they were appalling in matches that they really should be trying to go out and win. Just dreadful stuff. So Sassuolo 186 to beat Hellas Verona on Friday night. And then Bundesliga, Freiburg, they are 2.08 now on the Matchbook Exchange to beat Borussia Mönchengladbach on Sunday, and that's a price I cannot turn down. Freiburg, quite unfashionable, quite underappreciated in the betting markets as well. Their record this season since the opening weekend at home across all competitions: 11 wins, 3 draws, 0 defeats, 1.8 goals scored per game. They kept 6 clean sheets in the last 10 at home. And yeah, I wondered whether it was just a variance thing. So I looked into the underlying metrics, and in the Bundesliga, they are rated as the 5th best team at home. They've lost just once and returned 6 wins in 10. And the metrics suggest so. They've ranked 4th on expected points and 4th on XG process at home. They've also got a really strong record against Gladbach, not just recently, but goes back to 2002. They're unbeaten in 17 home games against the Foals. Really remarkable record considering the stature of these two clubs. So just staggered to see that we can get them at an odds against price here. As I say, 4th on expected points at home, 4th on XG process. They're actually averaging 0.94 expected goals more than their opposition on a per game basis at home this season, which is incredibly strong. They've already held Dortmund and Hoffenheim at home. They've beaten Stuttgart. They haven't hosted Bayern Munich yet, but it just shows that whatever way we try and skin this, the home price is too big. And Gladbach have sort of slept back into a relegation fight, 3 points above the third placed bottom side, following a run of 1 win in 9, 5 defeats. That includes a 3-0 loss at Frankfurt last week. 5th lost in 11 away, scored just 3 goals in 6 away games. They're winless against the top 10, exclude the bottom 2, and they've scored just 5 goals in 9 away. Only 3 teams have created fewer big chances on their travels as well. So, yeah, my numbers make Freiburg around about 1.8. We're getting 2.08 here, which is a fantastic value price.
Okay, I can't argue with that, to be fair. Good case. Adrian, we'll move on to long shot time. So the championship, as I said, you probably have 5 teams in the hunt for automatic promotion. 6 points is a big gap. It can be clawed back, of course, long way to go. Yeah. But you've got 6 teams within 2 points for the last remaining playoff spot, and you've got Derby travelling to Watford, who are placed below that and only 3 points off it. So it's very tight at the top, or for that last playoff spot. But you fancy Derby to go away to Watford and get a result?
I do, yeah. Look, Derby are great away from home. Only Middlesbrough have got more points on the road than Derby. Derby have been a brilliant away side all season. It's not a flash in the pan. It's not just because they've won their last 3 away matches. They've been consistently churning out wins and draws for much of the season. They've lost 4 of 16 away games, which I think is very impressive actually for a team like Derby. They score home and away. Well, they score more goals away actually. They've scored in 14 of their 15 away matches. And they've actually scored in each of their last 22 matches. So they're really on a roll at the moment, Derby. Adjimang, the big American striker, keeps nodding them in. He can jump, this guy. He's really, really dangerous in the air. You've got other players that are coming to the party, like Rhian Brewster, Brent Brereton Diaz have just signed Sammy Smodic. So yeah, Derby are going okay. And they're going to Watford. And I'm not down on Watford particularly. They've got a new manager, Ed Steele. They came back to draw 2-2 at Preston the other day on his debut, and it was a terrific second half performance. They really, really went for it, Watford. I think they had 16 shots in the second half alone, which shows that they sort of released that handbrake. But they're not in great form. They failed to win any of their last 7 matches, Watford. Been very, very patchy. They've got a bad habit of conceding the first goal. It's happened 22 times this season. And look, Derby are great front runners. They're that really sort of solid, good game management team. So if they get the first goal, and if they've got the first goal 18 times this season, and they've converted that into 13 wins. So, if they score first, it's on. I like Derby to win and both teams to score. It's 7.8, which I think is a cracking price, cracking long shot price. Both teams to score has a 69% hit rate for Derby, which is up there in the sort of top 5. 63% of Watford games also see both teams scoring. You know, they're more than capable of netting, but very, very few clean sheets for Watford this season. So, yeah, I can see a little cheeky 2-1 here. But obviously, we're covering our back for a few other scorelines as well. So, Derby to win, both teams to score 7.8.
Okay, big price there on Matchbook. And Mark, I guess you're taking on Lille here, who have been in free fall since the winter break out of the French Cup, bar the Europa League results. They're struggling, and they obviously have Europa League action tonight as well, which is probably factored in.
Absolutely, yeah. And they're playing an Angers side who are just underappreciated. They are punching well above their weight. They're in mid-table in Ligue 1. They're 12 points clear of the bottom 3, relatively safe from the relegation scrap. And they've done it off the back of one of the lowest budgets in the league, and they've been forced to sell key players over the past 12 months, including again in January. but they continue to get results despite not having any money to spend on replacements. They're just doing remarkable work to sort of consolidate position in the top flight. They've won 6 of their last 11 league games. They've kept 6 clean sheets in that sample, and their home record, again, commands respect, more so than the market is giving them. 6 wins in 11, just 2 defeats. That was to Lens and Marseille. They've kept 5 clean sheets in those 11 home games. Just a very difficult nut to crack, and they've made a habit of getting the best out of tight matches. And I think that might well work in their favour on Sunday. As you say, they're playing a Lille side who have gone off course this year. 1 win, 2 draws, 6 defeats across all competitions. They've also involved in Europa League on Thursday night, which might be an area of focus now because, as you say, they're out of the cup. Their league form has tailed off, so they're way off the top 3 in terms of Champions League qualification. They have also failed to win 5 of 8 games immediately after European action this season, losing 4 of those as well. And their away form has been pretty dubious for a long time, actually. 7 defeats in the last 10 away trips. They failed to score on 7 occasions. And yeah, they're 11 points shy of third. So the Europa League should be something to aim for. They scored just twice in 6 Ligue 1 games. This just looks a really awkward assignment for them, going away to a team who are difficult to get the best of at the best of times. And Lille have quoted around 1.85 to win this game away from home. Just a horrible price. Would stay way clear of that. And therefore, I'm going to back Angers as my long shot at 4.9.
Okay, at home as well. So we'll lock that in and move on to best bet time. And Adrian, sometimes a price jumps out at you, and Brentford at home to Brighton, 206 does. So maybe I'll start with, what are the negatives to Brentford? Why are they as big a price as they are, if you get me? And why do you still think it's worth it?
Well, it's Brentford. They're not one of the big 6 teams, are they? I guess that's why. They won't be odds on that often, will they? Brentford, I'm guessing, even though they're having a cracking season. But this is as much about opposing Brighton as it is to praise Brentford. Brighton are on a rubbish run at the moment. They've lost 7 of 13 away games this season. They've had 1 win since the end of November. So we went all through December, busy schedule, all through January, busy schedule, into February, deep into February now, and they've got 1 win. It's sort of been very, very poor. And away from home during that spell, they lost 4 and drawn a couple. Away from home, not good. They've only scored 14 goals on the road. Brighton used to be that team that would, they'd net 1 or 2 regularly on the road, but that hasn't really happened. They're not keeping clean sheets either. None in their last 6 on the road. So it just feels like everything's going a bit flat at Brighton. I think that the young manager there, he might be under a bit of pressure. I think in the summer they've sort of sleepwalking towards quite a disappointing finish. I don't really understand it, but something's not quite right there. And I would like it. I fancy Thiago's chances up against Lewis Dunk, who I think is really struggling for speed these days. Thiago's an absolute machine at the top end of that pitch. Brentford are guaranteed to create chances. 79 big chances this season. It's only 1 behind City and Chelsea, who have got the most, and it's exactly the same as Arsenal. 79 big chances, and 45 of those have come at the G-Tech. Look, we're in terms of home games, only City, Arsenal, and Man United have scored more home goals than Brentford. They've been good at home, 1-7. So I kind of see this as this really should be a routine home win for Brentford if they're at it, up against a side that's sort of just meandering along. I think Brentford should be able to win this and win it quite well. So 2.06. I just thought it really stood out to me as a possible home banker.
Okay, be interesting if they do touch odds on between now and Saturday. That's 3:00 kickoff. And final word to you, Mark. Union Saint-Gilloise, top of the Belgian Pro League, and you're expecting them to do the business this weekend at home to Antwerp.
Yeah, they're about as reliable a home team as you'll find in Europe, and they're involved in a 3-horse title race now because they've led the league all season, but their away form has allowed other teams to claw some points back on them, but they're back on home soil this weekend. 11 wins from 12 unbeaten home games this season, 3 goals conceded in those 12 games. It's quite a remarkably strong record. 10 of those 12 games have gone under 4.5 goals, and that's just the angle, really. Pair and Union Saint-Gilloise win alongside under 4.5 goals when they play Antwerp, because Antwerp have lost and failed to score in 4 of the last 5. They've already lost half of their 12 away days. They've scored just 0.75 goals per game on their travels, but they do tend to keep things tight. 11 of their 12 away days have gone under 2.5 goals, let alone under 4.5. They failed to score in 7 of those 12, failed to score in 40% overall. So the win to nil is a big runner here, but just playing it a bit safer, and the price allows that 1.8. So as you expect, Union top of all the main data points, so eager to get them on side against an Antwerp side who are bang out of form and struggle to generate anything in terms of open play opportunities, particularly on the road, and they're marooned in mid-table with nothing really to play for. So Union Saint-Gilloise to win, under 4.5 goals, 1.8.
Okay, that concludes our Premier League weekend podcast. We'll be back on Monday with a Champions League podcast. Adrian, we may have to say a word or two about the North London derby. Hopefully we don't. It's just a routine 1-0 win, mate, and we can just crack on with the Champions League the way it should be. Shouldn't have to be always looking back. But a fascinating Premier League title race. In fairness, we have what we want. Well, most of us do anyway. Exciting title race, and we'll be back for those second legs, some cracking first leg ties. So looking forward to previewing them all on Monday. That should be in your podcast feed on Monday afternoon with Mark O'Haire and Adrian Clarke. Insights.matchbook.com. Full recap of the guys' picks. Enjoy the weekend's football. We'll chat to you on Monday. Bye-bye.